In this video, I'm going to show you the best type of fonts for different kinds of t-shirts. Let's go. Thanks for joining me on this video. My name is Juna with Detour Shirts, the channel all about helping you design and sell t-shirts online. If that's something you like to do, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So in this video, I'm going to talk about fonts. And people have been asking me, what are the best kinds of fonts for t-shirts? And it really depends on your topic. So I'm going to go through different types of topics you could do on a t-shirt. Designing t-shirts for moms would be different than designing t-shirts for dads and for sports. A vintage t-shirt would use a different font than something that you would do for kids and things like that. So I'm going to go over different topics and I'm going to show you all the different fonts I would choose for those topics. And I'm just going to use myfonts.com. That's a great way to find different fonts, but you don't have to use myfonts.com. You can use other places. I'm just going to show you the types of fonts that you can use for this. And of course, just find something similar on a different website if you don't want to use myfonts.com. The fonts I'm going to show you are not going to be free fonts, so you might want to look for something similar if you're looking for free fonts. I have another video for free fonts if you want to look at that video right there. But this video is going to have a ton of fonts. I'm going to go through so many fonts so you can see the different types. You're going to want to stay to the end for this one because you're going to want to see all the different fonts for all the different types of t-shirts, as well as another edition of trend credits. So let's get into it. So the first topic I wanted to share is the all-around topic. So these fonts that I'm going to show you are fonts that you can use for almost any design. They'll work really well because they're just basic fonts, thick fonts. So first of all, here's myfonts.com. I chose myfonts.com because you can see they have a lot of fonts, over 130,000 fonts. So these are my picks for the overall. If you want to use these for any of your designs, it should work really well. Of course, my favorite, I have to put this in, is Veneer. This is Veneer Clean. I usually just use Veneer, which is a little more rough, but this one, the clean one, is thick, it's bold, and it's condensed, so you can fit a lot of things. So you're going to notice that kind of trend. So Trade Gothic is another one. It's thick, bold. You might even have this one, Trade Gothic, or something very similar on your computer right now. So this is another one, just a condensed, bold font. This one is Kaustin. You can see this on my fonts. It's not condensed as much as the other two, but you can see nice and bold, easy to read. That's what you want in a font for t-shirts. Something easy to read so people can see it and read what you're saying. Impact is another one, super bold, condensed as well. You probably have this one or have seen this one before. This one's really popular and it's been popular for a long time. Another one is Chedros. So you can see this one is a bold and condensed font, but it just has that little bit of style that the other ones don't. You can see the C's just a little bit different. The R's a little different kind of thing. So it's a nice font, easy to read, bold again. Burton, I like this one because, again, bold, easy to read, but this font comes with all these different types. So you can see in this font family, you have the base layer, you have the shadows, you have the outline. I really like that. So you can kind of mix and match these if you use the whole font family here. And lastly, for an all-around font, I added this one. It's just a little bit different. It's bold again, thick, but it has the rounded edges. So you can see some of these right here. It's called Vodka. Look how nice this looks, this rough brew. Real easy to read again, just a little bit more fun, but you can see some of these examples, just a really nice font. So all of these can be used for all-around font, not any specific topic, but these are all easy to read, so works well on t-shirts. So these next few fonts are for designs that maybe have a funny twist on it. So funny sells really well on Amazon and other POD sites, print-on-demand sites, and these fonts kind of help with that. It's a playful font, usually rounded fonts. And let me show you what I mean. So here's one, Hello headline. You can see really playful. It has those rounded edges, looks kind of like Comic Sans, but a little thicker, right? So cartoon character, that kind of thing. So really helps with to present that message of funny, right? Because comic, funny, that kind of thing. This one's called Chunky Nouveau. So a lot like a Valken. If you've seen any of my designs, I like this rounded font, a lot thicker than the other one, but also really playful, right? So this one works really well too. It has an italic version. Omnipop is another one. Let's look at some of these. Nice rounded font, right? It also comes with some of the other fonts here, brush and script to go along. Since it's in the same font family, you can use them together and they'll work well together. I like using the script and the rounded together. It looks really nice. You can see some more examples here. So really cool together, right? The next one is Bobby Jones here. You can see this font family, kind of like a handwritten font. So it has that comic feel, that funny feel. Let me show you some examples here. It has the thick and thin, which you can use to give it variety and also, help with that, convey that message of funny. And this last one here, Wicked Awesome, also looks like a handwritten font, hand-drawn font. So gives that playful feel. That's awesome sauce, right? You can just look at that. It's just text, but it just feels fun, right? So adding that to the graphics here just has that playful feel. So any of these fonts can be used for your fun designs, funny designs, pun designs, joke designs, those kinds of things. Funny does really well on t-shirts, so use any of these for those fonts, especially when you have a hand-drawn graphic or a funny graphic. These would work really well. So these fonts I've picked out for mom topics, love topics, romantic topics, those kinds of things, more for women. I've seen a lot of these fonts on a lot of different shirts, but more specifically towards moms, Mother's Day, that kind of thing. So here's the first one. This is just a beautiful font. And of course it's called Hello Beautiful. Let's look at some of these things here. Look at that on a bag. Just really cool. Here's some other ideas here. Just a nice font here. So the script fonts do really well. I have a few script fonts that I'm going to share with you here, but take a look at this one. I love the underline. That works just by itself. Just the font by itself just looks awesome, right? On a t-shirt right here with some hearts, with some of this like hand-drawn things. Look at that on a phone case. We do phone cases now. Just amazing. The next one is called Gotcha. You can see kind of the same thing, more of a brush handwritten font. So I love those brush strokes here. Let's look at that. This one's just nice too. So look for these kinds of fonts when you're looking for fonts, just handwritten brush stroke kind of fonts. You can see how it looks like with graphics on here. Some graphics works really well. Look at that in a circle. Just amazing. So very trendy, sells a lot of shirts. Look at that on a shirt. Just amazing. So this is another one. It's called Gotcha. And lastly, Better Times. This is nice handwritten font as well with the stroke there. Works well with the sans serif font. I think that's part of the, no, it's not, but you can see here it works well with a sans serif font too. Here again with the sans serif. And lastly, a non-handwritten font, but this one I think has a lot of feeling in it too. So this one's called Felicity. You can see here some discretionary ligatures, just beautiful. When you have some of those, you can use, has that vintage feel. So this one's a nice thick font, but has these ligatures. Just look at that. They're so cool. So look for those kinds of things too when you're using fonts for Mother's Day and things like that. So just to look at here, just adds that little extra interest. You can see how just this together and how it connects with the letters here, these ligatures. Like this, not so much, but when you have these ligatures here, looks really cool. Look at that B and that D, just so fancy, right? So look for fancy fonts, handwritten fonts when you're doing t-shirts for Mother's Day or for Valentine's Day, that kind of thing. So those are my font picks for that style, the Mother's Day, Valentine's Day style. So these fonts here are going to be more for dads or for fathers or for sports, military, that kind of thing. So here are some of the fonts that I suggest using for those kind of topics. So Empires with a Z at the end, you can see this has that slab serif, right? So look for those kinds of things. This one also has outline and slanted. I really like this font for sports. Look for this kind of design. If you're not going to use Empires, look for this kind of big, thick with the slab serifs. You can see, and an outline just to give it variety. This is really cool, right? The next one is Nexa Rust. You may have seen Nexa Rust Slab. If I go through here, kind of that thicker font. Not all of these, but this Nexa Rust Slab right here, you might have seen that. Nice thick, again, slab serif. This one has a rough feel to it, a distressed feel, but really good for Father's Day and sports and things like that. The next one, Born Strong. This doesn't have the slab serifs, but you can see it has that sports look right here. Let me go through some of these other ones. You can see it works well. Even without the slab serif, it still looks like a football jersey kind of font or basketball, right? The next one's more of a military font. This one's called the Old Navy, but also works for men and sports and stuff. You can see here, really cool military style. It works well for like army and stuff like that. So you can see works well with other fonts too. So that's the whole font set. And lastly, the last one is Chaser. It's pretty similar to the Old Navy. This one's just a little bit thicker, different style. These are called stencil fonts. So you can see the other one, the Old Navy, also has that stencil look. So when you're looking for fonts, look for stencil fonts. This does really well for military designs. Also Father's Day, but you can see here it looks great on t-shirts as well. So any of the military, Air Force, and look at that. Just has that cool look that I think does well for Father's Day, this kind of stuff. So, and what I like about this font is it comes with some extras here. So the planes and that kind of thing. So really cool font here. So that is it for that style. Use these fonts, these thicker fonts, bolder fonts for Father's Day, sports, that kind of things. Look for slab serifs and stencil fonts. And these are the kinds of fonts I would use for those kinds of topics. So another topic that sells really well right now are vintage, outdoorsy kind of topics. So, you know, the vintage sunset, that kind of thing. So here are some fonts that I would use for those kind of topics. This one's called Intro Rust. You can see really cool kind of rusty, rough font. So take a look at this. Really cool ideas here. And this is a font family, so it comes with script and some of this bold condensed font that's rough here, a lot like veneer. Look at that, just has that vintage cool look, right? So this one is called Panton Rust. You can see kind of the same thing, big thick script font here with a condensed bold font here. So you can mix and match these kinds of things here because they're the same font family. Really nice together, but has that vintage look, right? The next one, very similar again, Zing Rust. So you notice a lot of these have the word rust in them, but look for those. Look at that vintage style here. Really cool style with that. This doesn't just have the rust or distress, it has the lines in it, which adds just a little extra to make it stand out. So you can see how it has some of those words, just really cool. Brandon, kind of the same thing, you know, different styles within this. There's got extras, you got shadows, you got rough 1 and 2 kind of thing. Inline is really cool too. So look at that, just that vintage style with the extras here, just make it extra vintage, you know. So really good for t-shirts here. This one's called Cheddar Gothic Rough. So another rough one. Nice big bold condensed font with that rough edge, kind of like veneer that I use, but this one has italic, just a little different. You can see has a little extra, you know, edge to it that makes it stand out and make it different. So uppercase, lowercase gives you some variety there. Just a nice font. And lastly, this one doesn't have that rough one, but it has that script. So you can see Lots of different ways on here that you can use, but still looking very vintage, right? Just has that vintage feel. So look at that. You put all the text together. Just a nice font. So these are all the fonts that I would suggest using for that vintage outdoor look, which is really popular right now. Sells a lot of t-shirts. So go and look for fonts like these. If you don't want to use these as guides to see what kinds of fonts you should get when designing these t-shirts. So another topic that's super popular right now on Merch by Amazon is the retro style. So take a look at some of these fonts. These are more like 70s design. You'll see here this inline kind of font here. This one's called Prism. Take a look at this. Doesn't it just look like it's straight out of the 70s? Look at that. Really cool font. Easy to read too if you got the thicker one. Another font like this is called Town. You can see here, this font family is really fun. You have the shadow, the inline, a couple of other things where you can kind of mix and match together using different fonts here. It also has this like inline design like Prism, like the last font, but it comes with other things in the font family that work well together. So look at that. Just really cool. Another one like it's called Borrow. You can see right here, same kind of thing where there's lots of fonts in this font family. So you can see they all work together. So look for those kinds of things so that when you use one with the other, you can kind of give it variety. Use two fonts on the t-shirt that work together. So that's a nice one. Cooper Black is just one that looks very vintage as well. It has that rounded kind of serifs here. So they look really retro, really 70s. So this works really well too if you want to give your t-shirt that 70s look. And lastly, Ultra System. This is more 80s, late 70s. So you can see here, works really well for that retro look if you're going retro 80s. Doesn't this look kind of 80s with the outlined font and the script font together? You can see works really well. Just has that retro look, right? So all of these together. So those are some of those fonts that would work if you're trying to do a retro design. Take a look at some of these fonts and look for fonts that look similar to these, and it will instantly give your design a retro feel. So these fonts I would use when I'm doing kids shirts. So if I'm doing anything for younger kids, you can see these are really fun. They also have kind of that rounded feel. At least this one. This one's called Clarence Inline. So it works really well for kid designs. Look at that, Bigfoot. And it comes with different styles, so you can kind of mix and match. Look at that. That just has that feel of, grade school, someone going to camp. This right here makes you think of someone younger, right? Just perfect for hand-drawn stuff too. So this one actually works really well with my kawaii stuff. So that's why I like this one. Another one like it is called Intro Script. So if you're looking for a nice bold script font for kids, this is one to use. Look at that. Looks really cool on t-shirts as well. Works really well with this kind of hand-drawn stuff too. Paper Cute Inline. You can see lots of different styles on this one. Just has that fun feel, not round feel, but it's still kind of young. Great for kids. You can see right here, kitty font, summer party, like perfect. Especially if you're coloring it, use color as well when you're designing t-shirts for kids. And lastly, Ding font. This is another thick, rounded kind of serif. This one kind of has the slab serif, but more thick and rounded. So really fun, just a fun font, easy to read, just bold. I love this one. Those are all the fonts that I would pick if I'm doing kid designs, especially if I'm drawing from scratch some of my kawaii stuff. I love using these kinds of fonts. Just the fonts by itself make the t-shirt feel like it's for a kid. So it really helps a lot with the design. So if you're doing any street art design, I don't do a lot of it, but these are some of the designs or fonts I would use if I'm doing some of those. So you can see more like the graffiti street art kind of stuff. So this one right here is called Empires. can see just a cool font with some of those spray paint kind of backgrounds. Just look at this. Just by itself, it just looks really cool. A little hard to read, but that's kind of how it is when you're tagging a wall or something like that. It just, spray paint kind of thing, but just really cool. Matches well with sans serif font here. You can see right there, but just the feel of it just looks really neat. Battery Park is kind of that stencil, but taken up a notch. So that stencil font for the military, but you can see here it's kind of bleeding out. So it just has that extra grittiness to it, that extra grunge to it, as if somebody was spray painting it. So this one would work really well too for some street art stuff. You can see here. Monthers, this one's really cool too. Just has that rugged look, works well for that. Has some of this script stuff in there too, but just look at that together. Nice kind of vintage street. It's kind of vintage kind of street, not that graffiti street stuff, but you can see it still has that edge, that grunge that I like here. So that one's cool. And you've seen this one before, Bobby Jones. I wanted to put it back in because of that grunge. You can see kind of handwritten, this kind of stuff. So you don't always have to look for graffiti stuff, but handwritten, that kind of, because you're drawing it, kind of has that feel of more street stuff. So you can see here, it just works really well too. So those are some of the kinds of fonts that I would use if I'm going to do more street graffiti kind of urban designs. Those are the fonts that I would use for that. So lastly, I wanted to share some Western fonts. So you can see here, Urban Cowboy just has that Western feel if you're going to do any Western designs. Let's take a look at some of these. Just really cool. And the colors work well too. Another one like it is called Buffalo Western. So you can see strictly Western kind of stuff. Really cool design here. I don't do very many Western stuff, but sometimes you need it. And so this is a cool one. And lastly, Cowboy Western. You notice a lot of them, or all of them, had that slab serif, but then maybe some little extra thing that's makes it a little more Western, right? So Cowboy, Saloon kind of thing. You can see this one has that little edge here, kind of gives it that more interest and makes it feel a little more Western. So those are the ones I would use for Western. Look for those thick slab serifs, but also with a little Western edge to it. So you can see not only does it have the slab serif, but just a little bit of extra different things that make it feel more Western, right? So those are the fonts that I would use for Western designs if I'm going to do some. So that's all the fonts I have to share with you. Hopefully those fonts really help, so you can see how different fonts give a different feel for different topics. So just the fonts alone kind of give that feel. So you're going to want to pair those fonts with the type of audience you want to design for, type of topics you're designing for. And fonts can help a lot in designing a shirt. I'll have a link in the description to my fonts so you can look for all of those. But if you want to search somewhere else, use those fonts as a guide on what kinds of things you can use on your t-shirts. Let me know in the comments if you have any of those fonts, or what fonts of the ones that I showed were your favorites. Thanks again for watching, and your reward is another edition of Trend Credits. Thanks for staying for this trend credit. Here is your trend. Pink or blue, Mommy Loves You. You can see here very low BSRs, and notice script fonts for mommy and daddy, because this is more for babies kind of thing. So mommy script fonts, right? So notice those as well here. Very low BSRs. Let's check Merch Informer. So in the competition checker, it's getting an A. So you know it's good. If you don't have Merch Informer, I have a link in the description to Merch Informer. You can get it there. Again, here is your trend. Pink or blue, Mommy Loves You. You can also do this. Pink or blue, Grandma Loves You, Grandpa Loves You. Gender reveal shirts, Grandfather Loves You. So this is just a huge niche or niche topic, whatever you want to call it. A lot of gender reveals going on here. You can see here, it's even abuelo loves you, right? So this is a good one to scale. So once you have one, you could switch out mommy for daddy, grandpa, abuelo, grandma, whatever. That is your trend for this video. Pink or blue, mommy loves you. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If this video gave you some value, all those fonts and everything, if that helped you out, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I got a little button right here now that you can hit that subscribe. So thanks again for watching. And as always, keep creating and keep learning. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.